Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Press Break podcast. I'm Chelsea Late, joined by Jamie and Tyler, like always, and we're going to get into some fun WNBA training camp fun. I guess I said fun already, but yeah, we're just going to talk about our thoughts about WNBA training camp. It just started 2 days ago. Things are already getting fun, so yeah, let's start. I think one fun thing about WNBA in general and the community is that they've really tapped into like social media. I think because like a lot of the players are active on social media a lot more than like the men's side. A lot of the teams have done really good to like expand their social media coverage. Um, and the players, I think, are just a little bit more open to participate in stuff. Like, I don't know if there is like pushback about stuff like that, but generally the content we get from WNBA season in general is really fun. So we thought we would kind of break down our fun, like our best. I've said fun like 8,000 times so
You're
far
so
this
excited for WNBA season.
It's fun. We're
The
good.
fun is keeping through.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna have some fun when Tyler, has a tornado pass through his house
No, that
any
thunder
second
is
now.
getting loud. I'm waiting to
Yeah, we keep hearing the thunder roll out. So if you hear that, it's just, Tyler's in Oklahoma
It's
and they're getting a
Oklahoma. I
tornado.
don't know
It's
what to
fine.
tell y'all, man. Like it's
Yeah.
Oklahoma. I'm right next to this window. Um, I don't
Give
know.
us updates as we go on.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Okay, so with that, Tyler, let's talk
Yeah.
about social media. What have you enjoyed so far from training camp,
Yeah.
draft night, all of that stuff?
Yeah, I definitely do think, like, to your point that players in general are just more on social media, like, that can be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. I think that the one of the kind of the cool things about and why social media is so important in women's basketball specifically is that obviously the coverage hasn't been where it needed to be for the longest time when it comes to women's basketball. So a lot of that had to be kind of done in house, which is why social media became so important. But also, I think when you compare the WNBA to like some like the male professional leagues, the degrees of separation has always been much smaller. Like when it comes to fans being able to interact with their players, get to know their player, like things of that nature. So social media has always been a major part in all of this, and I think that's only been amplified with the growth in the game. Is that the social media still feels like a big part in what makes women's basketball unique. With that being said, I think the team that's easily stood out the most to me for their social media so far is Indiana and their whole like rollout that they've had, where they're just like
Mhm.
talking cash now. Like they are owning the fact that like they turn away games into whole games with their fans and everything. And like I've never seen like generally I feel like teams and whatnot have kept it pretty cute across the board. Like no one's like really like directly throwing shots at people or anything crazy. Like there'll be jokes and jabs here and there, but like it's rare that I feel like a team is like really like talking that talk. And
Mhm.
personally, as the messiest person I love it. I really do. And I feel like they're doing it in a unique way, in a fun way, and I mean they've backed it up so far. I mean like you see the away games and like how like they turn into FIBA home games a lot of times like at certain arenas. So like it's been cool, it's unique, and so far and again it's kind of in the early days of it with training camp and whatnot, but they've stood up to
Yeah.
me so far.
Yeah, and I forget what team it was, but last year there was that team that, like, did that trend going on where they did the different teams, and one of them was, like, has a lot going on right now, and it was Seattle, and that ended up being, like, a meme throughout the
Yeah,
season.
was the schedule
Okay.
release this year for Chicago?
Schedule release, yeah.
Yes.
What it
Yes,
was?
yeah.
Yeah, I
Going
love
to
it. Like
Seattle,
that's
going
that's
through a lot.
phenomenal. Like, yes, please make fun of these other teams. Like
Yeah.
this is great. Like I again, as the messiest person like please give me something to latch onto and like and to beef about. Like, yes, thank you. Like again, obviously to a point, there's a line always, but like we can have some fun with it. And like I feel like Indiana so far has been having the most fun, and I
Yeah.
can always respect that one way or another.
It's also fun to see Aaliyah Boston try TikTok dances. That's one of
Mm,
my favorite Indiana Fever like social media
mm,
things. Love her. Her TikTok's always great. But yeah, I think like kind of in the same vein, I think Dallas has really taken like the
very
opportunity that
much
they
so,
have
yeah.
this year to like boost their social media content. I think
Yeah.
like especially draft night, like they were ready obviously
Why
with the
did
number
something
one pick.
change?
Oh yeah, I don't know. They just kind of got a player.
Did
It's
something
fine.
change?
Did someone go
Did
to Dallas?
everything almost in that
Yeah.
organization?
Yeah.
Did the vibe go from 0 to 100 immediately?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, like they were ready on draft night, obviously knowing who they were gonna pick, knowing what was gonna happen. They are not only like making Paige like the forefront of their content, but they're like feeding into Paige's fan base online, which like if you know about Paige's fan base
The
online,
Page fans are crazy.
they
The
are
fan I
loyal.
like it though. I love it. Like I
I
love
love
the
it. It's
loyalty, but
like
they're
yeah,
as most stands are.
yeah. And I don't think it's like in a very toxic way either. Like there's certain things where I'm like, whoa, that was a lot. But like mostly it's just like genuinely fun, like cute stuff. But yeah, the one thing that made me laugh so hard was that photo shoot they did with her, where like I was like the lighting, the angles here, like you knew what you were doing
Mm.
with this photo shoot. And the other thing that I found so funny is now that we're in training camp and you're seeing the players interact with each other, like her relationship so far with Dejanay Carrington is hilarious.
Mm.
And I love them too just going back. And my one question is like, have they talked about the 2021 Elite Eight yet? And like I need an update about when that happens.
The
Because
trash
I
talk
just
will
like,
come eventually. It's bound to.
yeah, it's gonna
Well, I mean, that
happen.
was literally day one when they all were like giving one quote to the social
Yeah.
media. They
Yeah,
immediately were going after each other, and I mean, people were quoting it with like the pictures from that game. Like, I love
yeah.
it.
It's fantastic, and, like, we all know that Dejanay has such, like, a lovable personality. We know that Paige has such a lovable person, and they both have, like, big personalities. They're known to be jokesters. Like, we all knew Paige was the Yukon jokester and all that. So, it's just fun to see, like, these social media teams really take like, these players' personalities and, like, showcase them and also, like, interact with the fans, and, I think the fun part too is that these social media managers are usually like integrated into the community too. Like they know
Hmm.
what people are talking about. They quite often like have, they were a fan before they started doing the social media for the team. So it's funny to see these like really tapped in, really like up to date like trends and videos and stuff that they've been doing with Paige. And I mean, you just follow her around with a camera, and she's gonna like say some gold stuff. So I mean, it's pretty easy to get good stuff out of her. So I think it's just like capitalizing on the moment, which they're doing. So yeah, Jamie, what do you think? What's your take?
Yeah, I mean Dallas as well. I definitely was noticing a lot of the same things you mentioned. Like what I really saw with Dallas is that they've been really good about doing like player specific posts where
Mm,
they'll have one post for a certain player that has maybe a couple still photos, a video clip, like giving content because they know that these individual players have really great followings as well as the team as a whole. And so
mhm,
especially with new players, even beyond Paige. They've been doing that with Nalissa Smith, who's new to Dallas. They've been doing that with, Maddie Segrist, who obviously has been there for a little bit, but has been absolutely terrific. And that's what I really have enjoyed there, where especially with their rookies, they're doing that. And so that's a really great way to continue to tap into the college fan base. And so
mhm,
I've really admired the way that they've approached that. Similarly, the Sky, I think, have done a really great job with having a lot of video content.
Mhm.
And
mm,
especially as you're seeing, okay, these camps where there's going to have to be, unfortunately, a lot of cuts made, but there's a lot of questions as far as, okay, we have these new compositions of rosters, we have new coaches, there's just so many questions to be answered across the league, which we're going to get into in a second. But I really like to be able to see actual gameplay already, seeing
mhm,
scrimmages, seeing what these teams are focusing on as far as development, as far as how they're evaluating these players. And with this guy, I've also noticed, and I'm not sure if this is just because I happen to follow a lot of people in the Midwest, and so I'm seeing more reporters from like their scrimmages and stuff, or if they have a bigger push from their reporters or maybe greater access at their training camp. I'd be
mhm.
curious if anyone like has people that they follow from other teams that are posting training camp content. Please like let me know on Twitter, on social media, because I would like to find more people. But what I'm seeing from the Sky is a lot of video content and having multiple reporters posting a lot of video content as well. So you can just get so much information from the Sky camp. And we're going to get even more because Tyler Marsh said that they're not making any cuts ahead of their first preseason trip to Baton Rouge. And so I'm really excited about that. I think that that's awesome that they'll be able to see literally everyone they brought into training camp is going to be able to give an example in a game environment. And I think that that's going to
Mhm.
be so valuable even for the people cut to have that experience. So love that. On
Yep.
the flip side, Washington. I need more. Like, we're going to talk about them more in a second too, but like, you have so many new faces, you have so much turnover, you have a lot of really young players, and we're just not getting very much on the social media side. And obviously that's different aspects of the organization, but when you are in a league that is growing in the way that the WNBA is, you can't afford to not capitalize on that right now. And so if you're a team that's kind of going through a rebuild, that's fine, but you need to be able to get your fan base familiar with the players that you have, whoever they may be. And they're just completely missing the mark right now. Like, to have so many new faces coming in, there's so much great personality just in the league as a whole. And the Mystics are not really giving people the opportunity to get to know these players. Like, the ones who have been there before, you've got Sykes, you have Dolson back. People know them, but you have a lot of really young players that have a lot of, I think things to share with their fan base that are just not getting out there yet. And so with women's basketball, the way that those kind of personal relationships, those personal ties have been so crucial to building the fan base. It's kind of disappointing to see a team in that situation so completely neglecting to start building that early. And so hopefully they're just kind of getting their feet under them, and we'll start seeing more. But for the beginning of training camp, just very, very little content coming out of Washington.
Yeah, and, like, as you were saying that, I definitely like, the other one that popped into my mind too is Connecticut too, like, especially with the fact that they had so much turnover, and maybe, again, it's just, like, who I'm following in the space or anything like that, but yeah, and it's the thing with Washington too is that, again, they have so many big personalities, like, you have Aaliyah Edwards, you have Shakira, you have Kiki now, you have, like, even Georgia has, like, a specific personality, and so, like, you know, ideally these are the players that are going to be with your organization for a long time, so like starting to introduce them in that way. But yeah, it's definitely, I think, like, the players also, like, their personal social medias have a lot to do with it as well, like, the ones who are more active, the ones who kind of have their own social media thing going, whether that's like TikTok or, so some of them dabble in different things. There's the ones who go on Twitter and kind of like speak their truths and stuff, and sometimes, it's better than others. But then you have like the Instagram ones, and then there's a whole other section on TikTok, which is usually the younger crew of players. And I love when they like bring the vets in and like make them do stuff with them. I know there was a whole thing in LA last year where like Cam and Rakia were like, getting all the vets to do TikToks with them. But it helps. I mean, like, these players they're, what's the word I'm looking for? They're like brands in themselves. Like brands want to work with them. They're doing their whole aspect to getting the word out about women's basketball has been the social media presence of these players. So it's been interesting to see, and yeah, I'm excited to see. We all know that once the season starts, like WNBA social media, I think Twitter in general is one that I'm more used to, but WNBA social media gets a little wild, and sometimes it's really fun, and sometimes it's like kind of not fun. But you know that the season's starting when like the drama starts coming out on the TikTok or on the Twitter. So yeah, that's interesting. But we're
I wouldn't
going
know
to
anything
kind
about
of,
that personally.
yeah, I mean, I've never been
Yeah,
dragged by people on social media.
me either.
Yeah.
Who posts those clips?
Hey, look, all I'm gonna say is shout out to my circle that I reached this week, because when I said please don't get messy in a quote tweet and people actually didn't get messy, when I
There
pointed
you
out
go.
that Skylar dropped the Smith, respect.
First time in Twitter
There you
history.
go. Yeah, first time it's
It
never
didn't get
gotten
messy.
messy.
It got messy, but
I
not in
only,
my replies.
yeah.
God bless. Thank you.
You It didn't get messy for you, but then I had people calling me slurs in my replies this week. So it's two different contrasting
You
things
didn't
there.
ask people specifically not to be messy, so I guess that's the lesson we learned.
I should do that. I should be like, please don't be messy.
Disclaimer.
Read my article. Yeah. Only nice things. But speaking of that, we're gonna kind of flip here and start talking about training camp, because that's obviously going on right now. But on her hoop stats, our wonderful colleague Richard has been writing what we're calling these training camp roster breakdowns. And so the thing about training camp, obviously, if you're new to the WNBA, is that they're signing like 18, 20, sometimes more players to training camp. And then obviously we know they have to get it down to like 11, 12 by the time the season starts. So a lot of cuts are going to start happening. A lot of debates on who's going to make the roster, who's not going to make the roster. Basically, the rule is if you don't have a guaranteed contract, you could be waived. There's some people that have like a little bit more like protection, seniority, whatever, and they just don't have a guaranteed contract. I mean, the one that comes to mind is DeWanna Bonner. Like, they're probably the Indiana Fever probably isn't going to cut DeWanna Bonner, but yeah, we're getting into the high of the draft is fading. We're getting into like the rough reality that like a lot of these players are going to get cut in the next few weeks. But those breakdowns on her hoop stats from Richard, and we'll tag them below here wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast, so you can check them out yourself. But they're just kind of an ongoing update about every team's training camp, their lineups, who they've cut, where they're at in terms of like their roster size. And our cap sheets on her hoop stats as well are like one of the best resources to figure out, you know, what teams are doing, how, like, what their cap situation is, who's on the roster, who's not. Like, our team is really, really good at updating those really fast, and they're very accurate. So check those out as well, because I check them out at least, you know, a few times a week when I'm pondering around these things. But yeah, let's talk about training camp a little bit. And I think we're at the point now where some of the teams are starting to see the vision, and I think some of the teams were a little bit confused by the vision. So
Mhm.
we're a little confused.
Mhm.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about that, and like teams that were like thumbs up about, and teams that were like, what are you doing?
Mhm.
So I know Jamie has an interesting one, so we'll get started with you, because I know yeah, we were talking about this kind of before we started recording, and your question is one that I have been pondering since free agency. So yeah, let's get into that.
Wait, which one? Was it the Mercury or the Atlanta one?
The Atlanta one.
Okay, so Atlanta, I want to know what their identity is. And we've talked about this before as well on here as well as elsewhere, because I was the GM for Atlanta in our mock free agency, and certainly did not have my moves emulated by the organization itself, which is totally fine. They certainly know
it was not. It was
not there. We did not have a shared vision.
There's no shared vision.
My vision was very specifically looking at the style that Carl Smesko's teams have played in his very long, very successful tenure at Florida Gulf Coast. And then he's come into Atlanta, and you have to make some pretty substantial adjustments, of course, because you're moving to the WNBA. You are going to be faced with some very different situations. You also have some players that you certainly want to cater to that you already have signed. But then where there was some freedom, some opportunity to kind of make some adjustments, the decisions made, the adjustments made were not in any way, shape, or form what I anticipated, chiefly with the fact that he has historically played a style that relies heavily on consistent three-point shooting, on extremely efficient offense, on playing an up-tempo style. Then you go out and you don't really bring in a whole lot as far as shooters and strong perimeter threats. You have some returning perimeter threats for sure. You know, you have Alicia Gray and you have
Ryan
Alicia
Howard.
Gray. Ryan Howard can absolutely shoot. But I expected more as far as that goes. Tahita Powell will certainly be someone that can get in there, but to sign both Brianna Jones and Brittany Griner was a shock to me. They've been posting clips of BG shooting the three. It's
hard. Yeah, it's hard because when Brittany Griner comes and says, "I want to play in Atlanta," like there's not very many people who are going to say no. Like,
I would have.
The haters are gonna come for you. But
No, but like it doesn't make any sense.
I know
You
it's
signed
true.
Bree Jones. The vision, like Jamie said, the vision wasn't shared. The vision is just eyes closed right now. I don't get it. Like, and like I'm excited to wait and see. And I could be completely wrong right now. But Bree Jones and Brittany Griner in your 5-out offense starting lineup together.
I can't fathom them starting together, and like I also can't fathom that you're bringing one of them in off the bench.
That's what I'm saying. Like and that's like the immediate conundrum to begin with before even getting into systematic like stuff. Like they already, even if this was a too big system that like you like, they still just occupy the exact same space. You're going to be forcing one of them into like frankly a role, whichever one it is, it ends up being that they haven't done before. Which is like it's okay to a point to ask new things of players in a new destination, but at the same time, no, don't do that because why? Like it just doesn't make sense. Like the initial signing, had they just gotten one of these players, I would have been like, okay. They needed a 5.
You got your big,
You needed a 5. Like that was the obvious need, no matter who the coach was for the dream. It could have been anybody, and no matter what, they had to go get a 5. And had they just signed Bree Jones, I would have been feeling very, very good about what this could potentially look like. Brittany Griner is obviously in the tail end of her career. That still would have been a very solid signing for Atlanta compared to what they had at the 5. I can't comprehend how this is going to work. Knowing what we know about a Carl Smesco system. If it's a completely different philosophy, which I don't feel like that's why you hired Carl Smesco to be your head coach, is to change his philosophy. But technically speaking, like we could see that, and that is like TBD. And if that happens, it happens. But as of right now, I don't know. I don't see a vision. I don't know what the vision is. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
I will say, as far as Atlanta goes, as always, we'll have our own agendas that we'll push here, but I am very intrigued by the fact that my girl Ashley Jones is in camp there. No, but okay, for real.
But I guess, I'm with you.
When she announced that that's where she was going to training camp, I literally like could not have handpicked a better camp for her to end up in. Just as far as, like I said, they need perimeter shooting. They need that flexibility, like the ability to play multiple positions, because they do have, as you described it before our episode, like a log jam kind of in the post right now. And so I don't know that she for sure makes the final roster, but there's a lot of training camps that you come into on a training camp contract and you say, well, it's great, you get this opportunity. You will not make the roster. Like that's the case for a lot of these players right now. And that's not the case for, frankly, anybody in Atlanta. So I'm really excited to see just on the whole who ends up making that last roster. I would love, obviously, personally, to see Ashley on there, but in general, I think there's a lot of really interesting moves that they could make there. But I just need to see them play because I'm trying to figure out what the plan is.
It could have been very simple, I feel like, to just sign one of the 5s, and then you have Nas Hillman, who has looked very, very solid at different times, and that's your 4.
And again, has some of that versatility.
Exactly. To me, I think that's what frustrates me so much about this, is that like you were so close to it all making, like, slotting in pretty seamlessly, I feel like.
Because to have those 2, and then also to have the cap situation where they can only sign 11. I think it's those 2 things together that are really hard.
If you had just signed one or the other between Bree Jones and BG, I'd be feeling completely different about this. But, and again, it still might end up working out. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not saying it can't work out. On paper, I'm not seeing exactly what.
I don't have confidence in it on paper. So they'll be one of the teams that, like, for the amount of name value that they have on their team, the standings by the end of the season might not reflect how much talent is on the team because of fit and whatnot. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, and I mean that kind of like leads well into Jamie, your other question, which was about Phoenix, and like less so about like what the vision is, but like if you look on
very
the breakdown, if you look down at like Richard's breakdown here, and like he very much like by position kind of says, okay, these are the people who are guaranteed. Here's who you have at this position. Like, I think there's one glaring position that is lacking in Phoenix. I
And
won't
not
steal your thunder,
not
but
a position that you want to have questions at in the perfect world, and that's at the point guard position. I think that Phoenix right now has a lot of really, really great pieces. Generally speaking, your most important aspects of a team are going to be someone to run your team, someone to run especially your offense at the point guard position, and then especially in women's basketball, having a at the very least serviceable, if it's better than that, it raises your ceiling significantly, interior presence. And they have a great interior presence. I think that picking up Kalani Brown was huge. I'd be kind of surprised if they don't keep Natasha Mack. She had some really, really great stretches last year in Phoenix. You add in Alyssa Thomas, who just can play anywhere. Satu can play anywhere. But the point guard position right now, there's not a single name right now that you look at and say, yes, that is someone who has experience running an offense that is going to be able to step in and for sure run things. Like right now, their point guard list is Seguizun, who was in Dallas last year, very up and down. Monica Koa-Makani, Shia Laheel, Megan McConnell, like these are not proven names. And so that's not to say that you can't have an inexperienced point guard and have a lot of success. But to me, it reads as they're going to be relying really heavily on Alyssa Thomas running things. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all to have as an option, but that should not be your default. That should be a wrinkle. That should be something you go to when you need it. And so I think that Phoenix needs to be looking at who gets cut elsewhere. I think Phoenix needs to be just trying to shore things up there, because right now, looking at this roster, like you said, Richard has the guaranteed contracts, has his people that he thinks are pretty safe from being cut. There's not a single point guard on there that looks safe from being cut, and I think that's for a reason. Like, as of this particular second, I think they probably keep Uzun, and she very well may be their starting point guard at the beginning of the season. She did that in Dallas last year, but if you want to maximize the talent that you have on the Mercury roster, you need to be looking for some other options.
yeah, and like if you had someone that like just comes to the top of your mind, like I'm kind of scrolling through here right now trying to see if there's anyone that I'm like, ooh, that could be a good pickup if they got waived somewhere else. Like,
literally any point guard elsewhere. Like, I mean, I that's, and not to be disrespectful to people they have in there right now, but people with some level of experience, you know, like either, well, on the one hand, either someone who's new who you could be sort of shaping, or someone who does have that experience. Like, say in Atlanta right now, you have Jordan Canada, who has a guaranteed contract. You have Tahina Pau, who is a high draft pick, so you're probably not cutting her. Say that Haley Jones gets cut there. I know people aren't necessarily anticipating that, but if she gets cut there, then maybe you look at her. She has that experience. You have, you know, I just feel like around the league, there's enough players that you're looking at and could say,
Veronica Burton's another one.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't see Golden State necessarily cutting Veronica Burton. They technically could, but that list they have of Veronica Burton, Carla Late, and Julie Van Lowe, like if any of them get cut, that absolutely should be an automatic opportunity for Phoenix to pick someone up there. I just think, looking around the league, there's a lot of places that have more potential. Gosh, if somehow Grace Berger ended up getting cut in Minnesota, I desperately do not want her to. I want her to make the roster, but if she got cut, that would be someone that you should be looking at. So there's plenty of options out there, and you know, they very well could have one in camp that I'm not as familiar with, or that just hasn't had the opportunity yet, that ends up really shining for them. But that is a pretty glaring question to have.
Even like Ari McDonald from LA, like again, like if she ends up getting cut, like there's a few good names around where like if they get cut and I'm Phoenix, I'm kind of dipping in there.
Yeah, imagine a point guard like Ty Harris or something. I don't know. Like,
imagine Natasha Cloud.
That'd be crazy. Which, like, I mean, I get it. You got to make some of these moves to make some of these other moves, but they were very willing to part with both point guards, and that could very well be
limiting
that
factor
backfires on them,
because
if you have Ty Harris in the starting lineup, and again, you make the deals happen, like you're still able to bring the players in just through other means, and you keep Ty Harris on this roster. we're having very different conversations about it.
Yeah.
Like very, very different conversations. But
Yeah.
alas, here we are with no point
Speaking
guard.
speaking of Ty Harris being in Dallas, yeah, let's talk about Dallas a little bit because that is my kind of question going into training camp and the end of, this training camp session and where people are going to end up in terms of rosters. But Dallas is in an interesting place right now where they've overhauled quite a lot. Obviously, you had Kurt Miller come in and just kind of like shake things up, which needed to happen, obviously. But right now, you obviously get Paige Beckers, which huge. She's automatically going to slot into the starting lineup. You have Arike Agumbawale, who again is another one. Ty Harris is there now in the point guard position. Dejanay Carrington, Maddie Segrist. They got Maisha Hines-Allen, Melissa Smith.
Oh.
What?
We lost you, or at least I lost you for a second there on audio.
Oh.
Was that just me?
Oh no, I got you. Yeah. I think
Oh,
it was just
okay.
you.
Yeah.
Never mind.
You've been freezing. You're the one who's been freezing.
Okay, well.
The tornado's coming to you now.
I
I
was say
guess.
the storms are coming all over. Yeah.
My bad.
Going
Continue.
back to Dallas, like, yeah. Going back to Dallas, like, my big question is, like, who starts? / who's shooting? Because, like, you have Arike, who we know is, very big on playing that kind of primary scorer position. But then you have Paige Beckers, who is obviously very capable of doing that. Then you get further down the lineup and you have Dejanay Carrington, who, won most improved, definitely is in a position to be a starter now. Then you have Melissa Smith, who, number 2 draft pick overall, wasn't happy with the amount she was playing in Indiana, now comes to Dallas. Not sure she's going to get the start there. But then, then there's also like Maddie Segrist, who has kind of put her time in with this. Like, I'm just confused of like what I know the vision in terms of the players that they've accumulated. And obviously with the number 1 pick, like you're picking best available. But like when we were thinking, they didn't necessarily need another guard, right? So like,
I disagree.
You do?
Yeah, they haven't had a stable guard next to Arike ever, really. Because like even when Ty Harris was there initially, was probably like the last one that I felt like very confident in, and like even then, like Ty Harris has grown a lot since that time. Like this Ty Harris now is not the Ty Harris that was here last time.
True, but like in my opinion, Paige is so much better as like a shooting guard. In my opinion, so like then you have Arike, then you have like just like.
I don't think even Paige would necessarily agree with that. Like, Paige likes to be a distributor.
She does, yeah. But then
I think it works fine. I really do. I'm confident.
I think part
I'm
of it
curious
is
to see the product.
You have a group of very versatile players who are able to. And again, we're kind of looking at the breakdown here of who's the point guard, who's the shooting guard. Like that's not going to be every possession or even close. It allows a lot of people to kind of share the responsibility of I'm going to bring the ball up this time. I'm going to be off ball this time. You have a lot of significant scoring threats as well as ball handlers, so no one gets slotted into one specific box, and so I think that allows them to really show off like the depth of their bag, which is rare to have that much versatility.
It's true, and like I agree that like I was saying before, like I like all of the choices that they made. Like bringing in Dejanay is so huge. Bringing in Maisha Hines-Allen is another big one. Ty Harris, like we were just saying, is a great. But like I feel like I'm just worried it's going to get to the point where people are going to be upset that they're not like in the roles that they want because there's a lot of moving parts.
Then you gotta go. I'm so sorry to you, but like if you're looking at this starting lineup right now, we know the pecking order in the Dallas organization is very clearly the tiers to this. Respectfully, if you're unhappy, you gotta go. Like
we're gonna see very easily what the culture is, like how things are. Because
I think
that needs to be something that's communicated. That needs to be something that the expectations were set in free agency when you were making these moves with these players that are coming in, whoever makes the final roster. Like, I do think that has to be something that's a very ongoing conversation and will be part of the considerations on who makes the final roster of, okay, not just who's the best at any position, but who is going to be extremely bought into what their role is. Like, there might be someone who has a higher ceiling that gets cut for someone who has a higher floor and is going to be okay with playing those 5 minutes a game. And so I think they have a lot of really great options, and then it's just going to be who produces produces in training camp, who really shows it right off the bat, who's ready to get going, because there's going to be some really, really good players that unfortunately get cut, but they're going to have the options to, I think, build exactly the team that they want, whatever that means to them.
Yeah, like, I think they have like, the Dallas franchise has a good problem of having all, like, these options, like, they have a lot of options, and I think a good way to say it was with you were saying, like, we need to see what the team culture is, and when you're having a new GM, a new coach, a new star player, a new, like, all of these new things, new roster basically, because a lot of their roster has changed. Yeah, I think that's the biggest question of, like, what's this team going to feel like once you're on the court? Are they going to mesh well? And I mean, based on what we've seen from training camp, they seem to be building that chemistry. So I don't think the issue is that. It's like, yeah, like we are saying, like, is everybody going to understand their role? Is everyone going to be happy with their role? Is mixing these two very powerful guards together in lineups going to work? And while you were talking, I did kind of think about like the situation in New York with Sabrina and like her being a great guard, and then bringing in another guard to just kind of like so not all of the pressure was on her, and that was like bringing Benai Jelani and bringing Courtney Vandersloot in, now having Natasha Cloud, like it has worked for them. So I do think like, yeah, I think it'll take maybe a little bit of time, but I think Dallas has all of the pieces they need. I'm just curious how they manage them. So that is my big question as we progress through training camp. But yeah, Tyler, let's go to you now, because I know,
yeah,
as the messiest person we know, you have thoughts.
No, but here's the thing: these thoughts really, well, I don't think they're that messy.
No, I was just...
here's the thing: I love a good tank, okay, and people are afraid to use the word.
I live in Toronto.
I am not. It is okay to tank. The worst place to be is in the middle. Okay?
Yeah.
That is the worst place to be. I have said this before. I will continue
saying
it.
As an Oklahoma City Thunder
exactly.
fan,
Exactly. You are exactly right. And again, look, Oklahoma City Thunder, ain't nobody doing it better than them when it comes to tanking, okay? So as someone who considers themselves a tank commander, there's a good way and a bad way of doing this. And I think that there's two teams that are most clearly tanking in the WNBA, and they are doing it in two completely different ways, one right, one wrong. The Connecticut Sun are doing it correctly, okay? In the terms of what I've seen from training camp so far. I'm not talking about, like, because you don't have a draft pick, so, like, that's not good. But just in terms, like, what from a training camp perspective purely, because there is questionable moves outside of that. But from a training camp perspective, watching Tina Charles already be in there and just pouring into these players, like an Anissa Morrow, like a Rhea Marshall, like, I love it. The things that you want when you tank is availability of minutes for young players and good vets as you continue to maintain and or build a new culture. That is what Connecticut has done, is that they have opened this up where if you're going to tank, your young players are going to have the available time to go and play and make mistakes and learn and grow. Yet you also have very, very accomplished, well-respected vets. That is one thing if you mentioned the Thunder, that is one thing they did fantastically, was bring in the right vets that continue to build a culture right throughout this time of, because it's hard. It's hard to lose.
Yeah, it is hard.
It's hard to lose.
I'm in Toronto watching the Raptors right now. Like, it's hard.
Yes,
and
it's hard to lose.
Yeah, they've done another good thing where, you give those players time, but you bring in the right vets to help, like, mentor them. It's a balance.
If you lose without building good habits, you are doomed. And so how can you build good habits? And a lot of that has to do, again, with being on the floor. So I flip it to the team that is tanking poorly. The Washington Mystics. Decide. Because you
sound
trade
like a Toronto Raptors fan.
You trade Ariel Atkins, right? Cool. Do your thing. If you want to tank, do it. But Stephanie Dolson's still here, right? And Brittany Sykes is still here. And Brittany Sykes, to me, with this roster that it does not have the volume of guards, she feels like a great vet to be here. Stephanie Dolson is a very good player. Too good, actually. It's too good. Because you have 17 forwards on this roster. And you have invested so many resources into this position. Like, you have Aaliyah Edwards, Kiki Iriofin, Emily Angsler, Sika Kone, who is one of the coolest development projects in the league right now. She's fourth in your depth chart. Like, and that's not even that Shakira Austin, who has been really solid whenever she's been able to stay healthy. you got like over half your roster is above 6 foot and like play some form of 3 to 5 in different ways. And it's too much because it sounds like the vibe that I've gained from training camp, this could be wrong, is that it's going to be Shakira and Stephanie Dolson starting. No. No. Like again, like are those maybe your immediate 2 best players? Maybe. But no, that's not what we're here to do at all. And so you draft, even though Kiki Iriafin was probably BPA at the time at number 4, was you can make the argument for best player available right there. This was the worry. This was the worry that there was going to be this logjam. And how do you manage that? How do you monitor that? And goodness gracious, I'm not liking what I'm hearing.
Because like now Kiki's behind, Austin, Dolson, Edwards.
Yes, and again, like Emily Angsler was providing great minutes last year, like, and it's still young because all these players are still young. Yeah, like these are young players.
Agenda off, but like Aaliyah Edwards.
Yeah, like I mean, so I'm again, there's good ways to tank, and I feel like Connecticut, again, from just a roster building of like, okay, what you have right now in training camp, again, not talking about the picks or anything like that, but just purely from how do you build a culture while also allowing your players to grow. Connecticut feels like they have struck that balance really well early on in training camp, while Washington, I have negative confidence.
Well, and it reminds me of Dallas, where like they had so many bigs, and so you have Tyler. Like you talk about the opportunity to develop young players. Yes, having the opportunity to develop these players and to be put in different positions to develop your versatility. That is valuable. What is not valuable is forcing people to play out of position and develop bad habits to put them in spots where they simply will not be successful. When you're playing a 5 as a 2, as Dallas did many times, like that's not good for anyone. And that's kind of how it feels like Washington is being set up right now, because they simply they literally don't have the ability. Even if they keep every single person on their current depth chart at point guard and shooting guard, they won't have enough guard depth even then. And so you're putting everyone inside in a terrible spot.
Yeah, and like, I'm with, again, I completely agree.
And Post can't do it on their own. They need guards to feed them. So, that's even worse.
Like, you're putting so much pressure on Georgia Amore as well. Like a ton of pressure, like on top of that, because of how loaded you are at the forward position. Like you don't have that other veteran point guard to kind of like, you have Jay Melbourne.
Yeah, because Jay Melbourne, but
I'm so sorry. No, like not in that way. Like that's not. I don't know. It feels like it's nothing but. I don't know what rookie here right now is in a position to succeed. I think is where I'm at, and because it doesn't feel like. I think for Amore it's a little bit more kind of sink or swim, like thrown right into the deep end, which can be good, which can be bad. But all the forwards, and not even just like Kiki, but the other young forwards that have already been there. Like to me, if I'm Washington, I am wheeling and dealing at the trade deadline, which we don't see in the WNBA. But you have players that can go and raise a team's floor and ceiling come playoff time, in Dolson and Sykes. And when that time comes, or even honestly, like an Emily Angsler or a Shakira Austin, potentially, like those are younger players as well that can go, and you might be able to get a haul. Again, midseason trades are rough in the W, but this seems like a selling team that they should be. And you thought that would happen with Atkins.
Another team. No, another thing too. Watching who gets cut.
For sure.
Yeah, and with Washington, like you might as well trade these players, get something back for them. And then, or like risk your other players getting taken in an expansion draft, because that's coming. And who are you going to protect? Like, we don't really know how. Last year was 6 players they got to protect. I don't know if it's going to be the same because now there's 2 teams in the expansion draft. So, if you protect Steph and Sykes thinking, oh, these are our veterans, whatever, then you leave someone like Kiki, like, Edwards, like whoever that you're going to leave open. Like, who do you prioritize, or you have
right now, right? Like just hypothetically, right? Just on the 6, which I don't know if it'll be that again or how that'll work, but it'd be so assuming, because it sounds like they're prioritizing Dolson and Shakira, right? Which again, expansion draft is a different conversation, but You have Shakira, you have Dolson, and you have Sykes. That means one of Edwards, Iriafin, Citron, and Amor would go unprotected.
There you go.
Like
And Toronto's gonna scoop Aaliyah Edwards up.
just with this depth chart, you know, like and assuming like just operating under those same rules, like that. And again, expansion drafts is a different conversation of priorities and whatnot. But again,
it's like my thing is like, why not trade them and get assets back so that
which I thought was going to kind of happen with when the Atkins trade happened. I was like, okay, garage sale, like come, you know, what's your best offer, you know? And again, there is value. Like I would be okay with keeping Sykes on this roster because you have your vet, you don't have any guards, right? Like I'm okay, but like Dolson, it feels like a just out of like when it comes to the timeline of this team. Again, she's a very capable and good player. Again, too good for this team right now. Because I like her as a vet. She's just too good to be to.
Bro, the way I wanted her in Atlanta so bad.
It would have been fantastic. Yes, absolutely.
That would have been good.
Yeah, and then again, Shakira has to stay healthy, you know, and that is a genuine if at this point. She's been really solid whenever she's been healthy. But there's just you are frankly prioritizing question marks about the timeline long term over immediate development, and again, you're not going to be a top team in this, like even with prioritizing your vets on this team. So like that's where I'm just like, don't be in the middle. Like just
don't be in the middle. Yeah,
don't be in the middle.
And I think the interesting thing too, like, if we're talking tanking teams, is like these expansion teams coming. Like, I think Golden State is another one that has been doing it pretty well. Like, obviously, everybody is well aware that Golden State's probably not going to make the playoffs this year. So they're kind of getting these very like interesting international players developing.
Yeah, they're just seeing what sticks.
You know, they're just seeing what happens, and you know, ultimately, I do think that they're a franchise that are going to prioritize these rookies or drafted players, you know, when it comes to making those roster decisions. And then you also bring in Tip Hayes, who like is a great veteran. And
Thornton,
so I do.
Like, you got good Thornton, you got your culture builders, you got your
teachers,
Tony
Billings.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
And then you also have your young, you know, you have your Kate Martins, your, you know, other people that you've drafted. And then they also have a lot of draft and stash options. You know, I just think it's interesting how they've done it too, where like you said, like not aiming for the middle. They're not aiming to try and make a big splash in their first year, because you think about the draft that's coming up next year and the year after and the year after. And it's like, okay, like now's the time to do this. Like,
especially when it's 2 years with your record in the draft. Tank today. Start now. Today. Yesterday even. Start.
Yeah.
Like tank.
And if you're in that
now.
like
it's like the opposite
wishy-washy
of a motivational
thing.
poster.
Yes, I let me be your negativity. Like allow me to inspire you to be bad. Like that should be your goal while learning good lessons.
Like finally, like not saying it's a good thing, because tanking is definitely rough, as I know, but like we're at a point now where teams can, like you can, in the W, we're getting to the point where there's enough teams, there's enough, you know, kind of movement and stuff like that, where a team can tank. And like you can see, so like why are these teams kind of going wishy-washy halfway? Not like even Chicago, I was like, why did you trade that third pick? Why are you trying to do this stuff where you could again have another down year, get another top draft pick next year? Like, what are we doing here? Especially next year when you have an AZ Fudd, Flauget, et cetera year happening. The next year you have a Juju Watkins. The next year you have Sarah Strong. It's like, and I'm probably not getting the exact years right, but like now's the time. Do it now.
Think today.
Anyways,
that is the lasting message.
And soon you will be the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Well, hey, let's not don't set yourself too high, y'all. You could be Toronto.
Rude. We haven't been taking as long. We have not been taking as long as OKC. We're not going to get into an NBA fight because the people are going to be mad at us for talking about men. But
ew, men.
Anyway, and also rude because I've been rooting for you. I've been rooting for y'all. Like y'all are my pick to win it all. So don't be coming up here with those rude Toronto things. Anyway, go Tempo forever. Anyway, Jamie's just like, guys, what's going on? So yeah.
I already have Canva open to make my motivational poster. I ain't gonna lie.
Perfect. I love it. Tag me. Yeah, so, I mean, every time we say this is gonna be a shorter episode, we yap for
Yeah.
50 minutes, so
Make
thanks
make
for
a whole
sticking
court edit
around.
of me telling dudes to
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah, get this guy. He needs some flame now. You and I have been Twitter famous this week. We need to get this guy
Look,
going.
I can't be burnt.
Yeah.
It's
Anyways,
mm,
yeah, so make sure to check out Richard's breakdowns of training camp. They're on Her Hoop Stats. They'll be linked below. Also, check out the cap sheets on Her Hoop Stats because those are truly one of the most efficient ways to see who's on the roster, who's guaranteed, who's not guaranteed, all of that. So make sure to check those out as well. And also the WNBA transactions page is kind of a good place to see like what's happening, who's getting cut, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the places that we obviously recommend to get your info from. But thank you so much for joining us on the press break this week. We're going to be here talking about the W. We're going to be talking about training camp. This weekend is really exciting. Preseason games start, and all of them will be on television. No more iPhone streams.
moving on up in the
So
world.
yeah, we're moving on up. So those will be on League Pass. I think Sunday's Indiana game is on ESPN. Some of them are on Ion, some of them are on NBA TV. So just go check out the schedule to be able to watch those preseason games. But those are going to be exciting because I think some of our questions will be answered once we see these teams take the court. So for that, obviously we're Chelsea, Jamie, and Tyler. Make sure to check us out on social media, except if you're going to call me a slur. But
Lovely.
lovely, right? Such is life these days. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. This is the press break, and we'll catch you next time.